Some breaking news. The national television schedule, it's been released for the 2025 W season. There are 175 games you can catch on national TV and on streaming.
I feel like it's night and day from the day I got drafted.
How do you leave out a player who's literally changing the game, who's filling arenas, breaking viewership records, and dragging a whole league into the spotlight? Simple. You don't. Because if you try, you get caught. Because she isn't just another basketball player, she's an effect. What is the Caitlin Clark effect? Really, before we even get into how ESPN is trying to hide her impact, we need to talk about what Caitlin Clark has actually done. Because this is not just hype, this is history. Caitlin Clark was born on January 22, 2002, in Des Moines, Iowa. And by the time she left college, she had already built a resume that looked straight out of a video game. Iowa's all-time leading scorer, Iowa's all-time leader in assists, holds Iowa's single-game scoring record. First player in NCAA tournament history with 3 career 40-point games. And that's just the start. Her game wasn't just effective, it was entertaining. She didn't just win, she performed. Non-WNBA fans became WNBA fans just to watch her. In 2024, the Caitlin Clark effect went from being a college basketball story to a full-blown economic engine for the WNBA. Clark drove 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity. That includes ticket sales, merchandise, and TV revenue. Her team, the Indiana Fever, suddenly had the most watched games in league history. Let that sink in. One rookie player, and suddenly the entire WNBA was breaking viewership records across ESPN, ABC, CBS, and NBA TV. Her 2024 season wasn't just good for the Fever. It was good for business. So big, in fact, that when ESPN aired a preseason Fever game at her college arena in 2025, it pulled in 1.3 million viewers. That's more than almost every NBA preseason game since 2010. That's wild. But why isn't ESPN shouting all this from the rooftops? Because once you look closely, something feels off. ESPN is quiet on her million-dollar impact. In 2025, her projected economic impact on the WNBA is estimated to be $875 million US. You heard that right, almost $1 billion US. And yet ESPN barely touches this. Think about that. If any other player was responsible for nearly $1 billion of impact, the headlines would be non-stop. There would be feature stories, highlight reels, debates on sports shows, and stats splashed across the screen. But in Caitlin's case, it's quiet. Instead of celebrating this insane number, ESPN chooses to highlight selective data. They cherry-pick stats that compare 2025 to 2023, before Caitlin Clark was even in the league. Why not compare to 2024, the actual year her effect started? That would be more accurate, right? But doing that would instantly expose just how massive her influence is. If ESPN actually reported on the numbers the way they do with ratings, spikes, and social media moments, people would realize just how much the league depends on Clark right now. And maybe that's exactly what they don't want you to see. But numbers don't lie, and they're speaking loud and clear. Let's get into the receipts. ESPN downplays her viewership records. The 2024 WNBA All-Star Game, the one where Caitlin Clark played, 3.4 million viewers. Record-breaking. Then fast forward to 2025. Caitlin didn't play in the All-Star Game. Viewership dropped to 2.2 million, a 36% decline. And ticket prices fell 48% as soon as Clark was ruled out. That's not just a coincidence. That's proof of her value. It doesn't end there. In 2024, Clark was featured in 21 of the 24 WNBA games that got over 1 million viewers. All 3 games that passed 20,000 fans in the arena? Clark's Indiana Fever was in all of them. Yet somehow, ESPN avoids talking about 2024. They keep circling back to 2023, a year that has nothing to do with Caitlin, and saying this season is a massive hit. But ESPN isn't ignoring 2024 completely either. When the Skills Challenge and 3-point contest had decent ratings in 2025, ESPN happily compared them to 2024. But when the main event, the All-Star Game, dropped hard without Caitlin, suddenly they're back to comparing it to 2023. See the switch? That's what manipulation looks like. But not just views, merch, and money talk too. Clark's merchandise and ticket sales dominate. Clark isn't just dominating basketball courts, she's dominating shelves and ticket offices too. According to Fanatics, she ranks in the top 20 of all athletes in merchandise sales across all sports. Think about that. Not just WNBA, not just women, all athletes. She's also the sixth highest seller among all basketball players, including NBA stars. And when it comes to ticket sales, her effect is next level. The average ticket price to see Caitlin Clark on the road is over $312. In cities she visits, ticket prices spike over 140% and seats sell out fast. But her presence isn't just boosting her team, it's lifting her whole city. The Indiana Fever's value skyrocketed from $90 million to $340 million after Clark joined. Hotels book up, restaurants fill, tourism booms. Even corporate conventions have started linking their events to Fever home games. Clark has literally turned her games into economic events for Indianapolis. And yet, where is ESPN in all this? They'll gladly mention the WNBA is growing, but they rarely pin that growth on Clark. Instead, they keep things vague. It's always the league is rising or interest is picking up. Yeah, because of who? Clark isn't just helping the league grow, she's the main reason. Ignoring her in the conversation doesn't make it balanced. It makes it misleading. What's happening here is classic PR strategy. Credit the whole league to avoid making it look like one player is carrying too much. But that's exactly what's happening. And fans aren't blind. The numbers, the merch, the seats, they all scream Caitlin. Yet ESPN is whispering it like it's optional. But all these stunts are finally trying to project a story. And that is a we all did it story. Media, especially ESPN, don't want a Caitlin Clark league. They want a collective effort. Everyone wins, everyone shines. But that's not how it's playing out. Sure, Angel Reese is making noise and bringing in viewers too. No one's denying that. But the difference in scale is undeniable. Clark's influence is broader, bigger, and more consistent. Still, media outlets push this rising tide lifts all boats narrative. It sounds good. It keeps things safe. It keeps the league drama-free. But it also downplays reality. Even when Clark won Time's Athlete of the Year, the backlash wasn't about her achievements. It was about her visibility. People wanted all WNBA players on the cover. But when Sue Bird or Aja Wilson got magazine features in the past, no one said a word. When Clark won Best Breakthrough Athlete at the ESPYs, her own coach got on stage and started shifting the credit to the league as a whole. Even in her biggest moments, the media won't let her have the spotlight alone. It always has to be shared, or worse, watered down. And let's be honest, ESPN's coverage often leans into moments rather than talent. They frame Clark's success around rivalries, like with Reese, instead of just acknowledging that she's good. Period. It's not about giving Clark a crown. It's about calling it like it is. The fans are showing up for her. The money is following her. But somehow, the spotlight is always being dimmed when it lands on her too brightly. But here's where it backfires. Trying to hide her just made her bigger. The harder ESPN tries to bury or soften Caitlin's impact, the more obvious it becomes. People notice. Fans online are calling it out. Social media is dragging ESPN left and right. It's a textbook case of the Streisand effect, where trying to suppress something only brings it more attention. If ESPN had just leaned in and told the truth, that Clark is the current heartbeat of the WNBA, none of this backlash would exist. But now, the attempts to shift the narrative have only made her more visible. The receipts are all over the internet. Clips, stats, and fan reactions, they're not going away. And ESPN, by trying to control the story, has lost control of it completely. Because they tried to hide her achievements, but are her achievements that tiny to hide? Share and comment. Let's discuss.